if you remember in that Bills game, I have the numbers right in front of me. Man, take my word for it. There were a lot of 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 11s, there were a million 3rd and longs in that game. And the Chiefs going to go off the field because they just throw at Johnson and Connor the whole game.
Yeah.
Well, now it's Jalen Watson. I think Watson coming back for this game is more impactful than any other player returning on either side of the ball for either team.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
It's That Football Show here on KC Sports Network. Matt Verderame, Tucker Franklin, hanging out with you here. Appreciate Ben Holiday, Bottled and Bond Bourbon, and Holiday Distillery for getting us made up and right for this here podcast of That Football Show. And look, I think you guys probably know what this episode is going to be about unless you've been living under a rock for the past, week, really. Honestly, past season, because this is not like a new thing that's come up. Matt and I have got some bones to pick. The gloves are coming off. We're gonna have a just a gnarly tilt is what we're gonna have coming on here. We'll also talk about the Chiefs and the Bills. Maybe touch on the other side of the bracket as well. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing good. We're recording this here on a Wednesday evening because you're going to be. That's right, because you're going to be driving through the wonderful state of Oklahoma tomorrow, and you're going to the Shrine Bowl. And but I'm doing good. My wife's upstairs. She's doing this 52 weeks of baking. So like every week she bakes something. And she was like, "Oh, I got to bake something from like your child, like from our childhood." And we're both 36. She's like, what would you, although I should mention to make her happy, she's a month younger than me, but she's like, what do you think? I'm like, cosmic brownies. So she's baking them. So I'm going to go upstairs and gain about 8 pounds after this episode, but it's going to be great. I can't wait to do it. I have a little bourbon with them. But no, I'm good. I can't listen, man. We're what now? We're like 100 hours or so from the AFC Championship game, and whatever the hell the NFC title game is to you. So it's like a warm up. I feel like the NFC title game is like when you go to see a big concert.
Uh-huh.
And here come the Kaiser Chiefs like to warm it up. Right. Like I feel like that's the NFC Championship game, and then like Aerosmith steps out, and it's like, all right, here we go. The best part about this AFC title game is how trying to think of the correct way to say this, how well lubricated the crowd's going to be at Arrowhead that night.
Yeah,
because just tailgating all day long, just showing up like 24 hours for the game at the gate. Just gonna be feeling real good by 5:30 Central Time.
Imagine if they would have put the Chiefs game first. Like, I know that like it alternates year by year, right? And it was like never really in question.
Chiefs got kind of lucky, so to speak, with this one.
Right. Imagine if that game would have been, if Chiefs Bills would have been like the matinee, and then the prime time heavy hitter is the NFC East showdown.
It would have been great too, because like, especially if this Bills Chiefs game's like a classic.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and now it's Jalen Hurts, and everybody's like, all right, and I'm going to watch an American Gladiators rerun because I can't stand watching him throw for 130 yards again.
Good shot.
Look, the NFL's like, thank God that this rotation fell the way it did. You get Philly, Washington, and then like a 20-minute break, and then right into Hello Friends with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. They may have to like tape him down to the chair.
That's true.
Man's going to be excited. He's going to be out of his mind for this game. Josh Allen can go to the Super Bowl. I mean, but then also, like, there's Mahomes, and to be fair to Romo, like, he's always also, like, he goes crazy when Mahomes makes a play. So, like, between the quarterback play, they're going to have to, like, tranquilize Romo. I mean, they're going to have to sedate him before they go, hey, Jim, they're going to have to ease him into it. Maybe, like, a couple hours before the game, so, like, he just builds up to a crescendo by the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it's good.
I can't wait. The last time that the Chiefs played them at home in the playoffs was the 13 seconds game.
Right.
Because they played them once since, but it was, of course, last year in Buffalo. And that was the game that I believe Romo coined the term Mr. January for Allen. Awesome. That was also the birth of Big Game Gabe, which remains hilarious because I'm pretty sure never had a big game since. And now he's in Jacksonville, who by the way, fired Trent Baalke.
I mean, What a masterclass by the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It was like Ben Johnson would like to go there. Cool. We're keeping Trent Baalke. Okay, Ben Johnson goes to the Bears. Then Liam Cohen, who everyone in the world thinks is going there. Today, the Buccaneers are like, yeah, guess what? He's actually rescinding his interest in the Jags, and he's going to stay here. And then Shad Khan was like, oh, shit, really? Yeah, we're going to fire Trent Baalke and hope that everybody else reconsiders.
Right.
Good times. Good times. Really well done. You know it's bad when the Jets look like a more competent organization than you today. And yet that's where we sit.
It was like Shad Khan was out of office, right? And he just had all of his emails keep getting like bounced because he was out of office. He had his out of office to reply on.
Yeah, it's
so
why the reminder.
Yeah, so he was out of office, and then he got back and was like, "Oh, Ben Johnson's interested. Oh, well, we're keeping up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Liam Cohen. Okay, yeah. Oh, well, we got to get rid of this guy. We got to get rid of, but it's just like too late. Like the damage is already done. I don't know. Like now they're just dug themselves a deeper hole because now they got to find not only a coach but a GM at the same time.
It looks even worse. It somehow looks even more incompetent than just keeping Trent Baalke. It's unbelievable. Gotta love it, man. Trevor Lawrence is just demanded trade tonight, right?
Yeah,
why even waste time? But anyway, whatever. Nobody cares about Jacksonville, and certainly not for the next 6 months. So, we got a game to talk about, but I'm sure, look, we're going to talk about the game.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking we might also talk about this never-ending narrative that's been going on for the last 3 or 4 days. I'm pretty sure it was fueled by Troy Aikman just having an absolute aneurysm on the broadcast.
That's where I want to start.
Go ahead. You have the floor.
Yeah, I want to start there with Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, right? Joe Buck already doesn't have a great he probably doesn't have the biggest audience in Kansas City, right? The biggest fan base in Kansas City, I should say.
He's St. Louis guy.
Yeah, St. Louis guy, and he kind of Royals fans take exception to what he did during the Super Bowl when Madison Bumgarner was doing historic things. And so that sticks with some Chiefs Royals fans, right? And and Joe Buck has also, as you mentioned, had a couple things with Mahomes as well. And like that is a little stick in the craw of Chiefs fans. Troy Aikman has a lot of history with podcasts on this here network and with Patrick Mahomes. Every year Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl, which seems like it's a yearly occurrence now. The tweet that he had, quote tweeting Joshua Briscoe's article for The Athletic, always comes up of, let me know when he has 33.3% of my Super Bowls. Well, Troy got them all, buddy. And he's got them all. And you could finally see, I think, Matt, you could finally hear the frustration seep out of Troy Aikman. He was fed up. Look, I know that this has been talked about all week with like these calls and everything has been talked about, but here's also the other thing that goes into this, Matt. I didn't know by the time if we were going to record this podcast if it would still be relevant for us to talk about this. It's like, and by God, it has remained relevant until Thursday about the officiating in this game and officiating just about the Kansas City Chiefs. So that kind of started the whole thing, the whole conversation about the Chiefs and the refs. Then after the game, you had who I really think D'Amico Ryans is a good coach. I think that he's a great culture builder. But in a moment of maybe weakness, Matt, he goes on and says some of the most ludicrous things in a press conference, saying like, "Oh, we knew we had to beat everybody. We were coming here," and his players parrot the same thing. Just a very mentally weak thing to say after you lose a football game, and that was even baffling to me. Let's start there before we get into like the prevailing narrative from that game.
I gotta tell you, you're the Chiefs. That's great, right? Like. You got guys coming into it. Joe Mixon was talking about it. Will Anderson was after the game talking about it. Like, how great it is if you're the Chiefs and you got guys going in there like, man, even if we play well, we're going to lose because of the officiating.
We've already won.
Great. Like if you're the Chiefs. But here's my thing with this, okay? I'll go on another angle of this. These people, and I'm not talking about the guy on Twitter who's like at Johnny674925 and has an egg as his profile picture. Okay, that guy sucks, and in half the cases is a bot anyway. Right? I'm talking about real people, like real people who have like legitimate followings, who have some level of credibility, okay, and sit there and go, it's just not fair. Chiefs are getting all the calls. Chiefs getting all the calls. Bro, you not watch the 2018 AFC title game? There'd have been another Super Bowl, if not for one of the worst roughing the passing calls of all time. And then, by the way, a D Ford offside call that is fine. He was in the neutral zone. Yeah. But that play happens 30 times a game and doesn't get called. And that's fine. I have no problem with that call. It was the right call. The Chiefs did not win. And I defy anybody to go back and find the game for me. Any playoff game, because they were just egregiously getting calls left and right. And I guess what pisses me off and bothers me with my brethren in the media and our brethren is these people who damn well know better, but pander like morons because it's like, well, I'll get a click out of it and I'll get 30,000 likes out of it. And, Johnny 7654321 is going to follow me, and I'm going to be able to, in some cases, monetize my take. And I can monetize being a dope because that's really what this is. And when you really think about it, okay, it's easy enough to just go, oh, the NFL brings games. Okay. So couple of layers here. We don't even have to go that deep. I'm not going to the Earth's core with this one, but just a couple feet below the surface. Do you really think the NFL is getting every owner on a conference call and league officials and partners of the league and going, guys, listen. I know that Kansas City is the 80th biggest market we've got, and everybody in the world wants to see somebody else win other than people in Kansas City. The Jets have been terrible. The Giants have been terrible. The Cowboys are an embarrassment to the sport. But look, we got to rig this thing. And not only do we have to rig it, but we need everybody on board in this meeting. All the other teams have to be willing participants and the players. Everybody's got to be on board here. And if anybody blows the whistle, we're all going to federal prison. Right? Or we could just play the fucking games and however it shakes, and maybe your team wins the Super Bowl and we're all billionaires and no one's going to jail. I mean, look, I am but a simple man. I feel like that's a pretty easy choice. And I love, too, the idea, listen, we're going to rig it, but we got to have a foil for them. So, the Bills are going to be one of these teams, the Bengals. Yes, that's what you'd want as the NFL. The huge metropolises of Buffalo, New York, and Cincinnati, Ohio. Yep. Not like the Chiefs are this team beating the big, bad New York market, right? Or beating the Bear, who have just also been a tire fire for however many years now, right? No. The foil's got to be Buffalo and Cincinnati. And every once in a while, Jacksonville. Huge markets that are driving ratings through the roof. It's such an absurd concept. And the bottom line is, people say this shit for one reason. Because the Chiefs win all the time, and they can't take it. That's why. It's the same reason that people said all this crap about New England. And New England gave them Deflategate and Spygate and all this other stuff. The Chiefs do nothing but win games, have never been accused of any of this stuff, but it's I mean, they've got to be rigging games at this point. How else could they beat the Panthers? It's yes. That the Chiefs are just as helpless, going to be woebegone 0-17 team, but thank God for the officiating that steps in and saves them. I almost am to the point I want there to just be an egregious call Sunday night.
Yeah.
The kind of call that is so bad in real time, you're like, oh my God, how could they have called that? And Romo's just apoplectic. They have to actually physically remove him from the booth. And then Nance is okay, here's the Lamar Hunt trophy again. At this point, just for the bit, that's fine. Let's just go that way.
I would really enjoy that. And look, were there some questionable calls in the game? Sure. I think that the one of him sliding is one of the questionable ones.
That's the call.
That's
the first one.
The first one, if you're seeing it from behind where the judges sit, you're gonna throw it.
It's a so-so call, but here's my thing with Will Anderson. Look, man, I get it. In today's NFL, the quarterback strike zone is a small strike zone. I get it.
Right. Yep.
But you hit him in the face mask. I mean, I was at the game. I was there. I was in the press.
Yeah.
Like, no one in the press box was like, that's a terrible call. It was like, yay, hit him in the face mask. Like, the second one, 1,000%. And I'll leave it at this. Mahomes, I will get on Mahomes for one thing. That flop bullshit should not happen. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like that to me. I've had Chiefs fans defend it. Well, come on. Look, he's better than that. That stuff and I know they didn't get a call, whatever, but like, people have a right to make comment. Now, I don't want to hear it so much out of Western New York. Josh Allen's got the greatest hits tour going every other quarter. When I mean, like Allen, you breathe on him and the guy tries to break his own fibula. But like, I don't want to see Mahomes doing that stuff. That to me, the second call is a bad call. The first call to me is letter. Like if they had, in fact, they did review it in New York. They called the call. Like the first call is fine. The second call, I don't think should have been a call. To me, Mahomes slid late. He set himself up for it, whatever. I didn't know it was intentional, but he slid late. But like, did anyone else watch that game? The Texans missed about 37 kicks and tried to block George Karlaftis with Dalton Schultz all night.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Carl Cheffers made them do that. That's the way it goes.
Maybe he did. I do think it's funny, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. Will Anderson said we knew coming into this game we had to fight against officials. Then why the hell are you going high on the quarterback? Then why are you putting yourself in positions to get officials? If you're claiming that that you also have to beat the officials because the refs are trying to rig these games for the Kansas City Chiefs, why are you putting yourselves in that position? I think that's an interesting point to make. I do think I'm with you on the flopping thing. Mahomes has done I think this year more than any of the other years. Mahomes has made the sideline his weapon almost to point. If you remember the scramble, I think who was it that got all upset that like Mahomes faked like he was going out of bounds, but really never did?
The Niners.
Yeah, it was against the Niners. That's right. And they were like, oh, he acted like he was going out of bounds. Like he did get close to the sideline. I don't think he ever acted like he was going out of bounds, but he's smart in that regard where he can use that to his advantage. He's done that before the whole Niners game, before that whole thing. He's done that a couple times to get like a few more yards. It wasn't now as much as he did against the Niners, but he's done that before where he's used the sideline to his advantage. While a lot of defenses use that as a 12th defender, he's used it to his advantage as well. And I agree with you. The flop is bad. He's trying to get a call there, obviously, because he knows that they got a quick trigger on things. I understand what he's doing. I don't agree with the way he did it because it makes my argument of every time I go to dunk on Josh Allen for his highlight tape, it makes my argument a little bit weaker. Patrick should think about that, actually. Does he know that it's making my online arguments harder when he does that? He should think about the little guy like me out here.
That's right. You know, I will say this, and I'm just anti-flop in general.
For sure.
Yeah. Like if you flop in the NBA, you should be banned for life. Period. One flop, get out. Right. James Harden would have been banned like the first quarter of his rookie year. But so here's my deal with this. So that I will take up from Mahomes in this regard. If Lamar Jackson does that, does anyone say anything?
No, probably not.
No. I got another one for Justin Herbert, who's everyone's like Twitter darling. Justin Herbert, if he does that, nobody says a word.
Nah.
Allen has done this forever, and I've never heard anybody complain about it, ever. The only time I can ever think of him getting even any criticism for it was in that playoff game against Pittsburgh, where he faked like he was going to slide and then just kept running.
Yeah.
But here's my thing, right? If that is such an egregious, which again, I hate the flopping, so I'm anti-flop. Mahomes, anybody else. Then you know what? Here's the deal. Mahomes was standing in bounds when he did that flop. If you want to light a guy up when he's doing that, hey man,
go for it.
He put himself in that position. Like, and I'm not saying like go high and like intentionally hurt somebody, but like, look, if you're going to stand on the edge of the sideline and you're going to try to do that, whether you're Mahomes, Allen, anybody else, I have no problem with the defender lighting you up and being like, all right, I'll hit you in the strike zone, but I'm going to hit you as hard as I can. You know what? Mm-hmm. Like, that's the risk you take when you do that. And I would say that officials shouldn't throw a flag if you're going to do that. Like, they wouldn't throw it if a running back did it. And at that point, you're a runner. That all being said, the narrative in general is just, it is the absolute dumbest thing possible. It is just
Right.
It's nauseating and it's like, it's also just, it takes away from the enjoyment of all this. Like, look,
Bingo. Yep.
I get it. If you're not a Chiefs fan, you hate them. I don't blame you, right? I get it. All they do is win. But at some point, like, I love, like, when, when like, I don't know, a Browns fan chimes in and it's like, yeah, it's rigged. It's like, yeah, that's your problem. That the Chiefs are rigged. Like, that's why I'm saying the Chiefs beat you in week 15 or whatever the hell it was. I just think at some point, like, and this is, look, there's a bigger conversation about society at large with this kind of stuff, but, like, take some responsibility. It's like, and I know it was like a joke and it was funny, but like Marlon Humphrey's, like, somebody's got to beat him. Say, well, it could have been you. He turned the damn ball over 3 times, and then, like, but I'll say this about the Ravens after that game. You didn't hear anybody whining and crying about Travius White getting called, but Keon Coleman tackled him.
My goodness.
That's the worst missed call of the weekend. Keon Coleman tackled Travius White, and they called it on Travius White. And you did not hear one Ravens player go to the microphone after that game or in the locker room and go, yeah, you know what? We would have won that game if it wasn't for that call.
No.
Not one of them. They all sat there and were like, we had to play better. We had to execute with the turnovers better. We had to do this better. And then you get the Texans after the game who lost by 2 scores and are like, if we had just gotten that one call back that was 50-50, like, maybe we would have been able to cover. I mean, what are you doing? To me, that is such a loser's mentality. If the Chiefs lose on Sunday and they blame the officials, I will skewer them till the end of time. But they won't. I guarantee you they won't.
Right.
It's a loser's ballot, both for players, coaches, fans, all of them, all losers. All of them can get out of my mentions.
There you go. I know we probably spent a little bit more time on that than people really wanted to.
It has to be said.
Yeah, it does. It does. It has to be said. And I think what you said perfectly kind of sums up what all of this discourse around the refs, the rigging, why Chiefs fans get so irritated about it. Not only is it blatantly incorrect and malicious, it's taking away from legitimate history that is happening with this football team and something that is quite possibly might be the greatest run of all time in the NFL. What could end up being the greatest run of all time. Not only they've won 15 games this year. They won 15 games. They've won 16, I guess, if you count the playoff game.
That's more than the Jets have won this century.
Yeah, and they're doing something legitimately. They're on the path. They are 2 wins away. From winning, doing something that no other team has done in NFL history, but all people can talk about is how the officiating is gearing it that way for him. You got Travis Kelce turning back the clock 20 years. He's looking insane. I don't think it was any referee's fault that they left him wide open, that they forgot to tackle Travis Kelce, Travis Kelce, by the way, all year has caught the ball and fallen to the ground, and you let him get the biggest play of his, what was it, like a career or something like that?
No, but it was the biggest play of the season. It was like his 4th biggest in the last 5 years. 49 yards. I was up in the press box, and when he caught the ball, like, if you've ever been in the press box at Arrowhead or near it, like, it is up there. You are way, like, you have like the all 22 view. Okay,
stone's throw from God up there.
Yes. When he caught the ball, he was so open. Like, I looked down at the field, and you're like, if he breaks one tackle, he might score. There is nobody. And of course, he breaks a tackle, and then, like, Al Shair, I don't know what that was. If that was a tackling attempt or he was trying to high five him or what.
Probably just trying to hit him in the nuts because he's the dirtiest player in the world.
He pretty much is. Yeah. He went flying by, and then Kelce, like, I was like, oh, he's going to score. And then the bear got on his back at about the 20. And after the game, like, so I was talking to my editors during the 4th quarter when it was clear they were going to win, like, for like 5 minutes left.
Right.
And I'm thinking, like, okay, like, what angle do you want to write about? I'm like, well, the Chiefs just make all the big plays. Like, they find ways. And then they were like, okay. And then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, no, it's got to be Travis Kelce. Like, this is insane. He has 7 catches for 117 yards. Like, the guy, I wrote in my column that I don't think he can outrun a parked bus at this point. Like, it's incredible. Like, I was in the locker room after the game. I was talking to Xavier Worthy, and I'm like, hey, man, like, what are you thinking on that play? And, like, at first, like, he gave this really, like, thoughtful quote, and then he kind of laughed. He's like, man, young Trav scores. So I went over to Kelce. I'm like, hey, man, like, what are you thinking on that play? And he's talking about it. And I put it in the story if people want to read it. But then I said, hey, by the way, Xavier's saying that, young Travis would have scored. Do you agree with him? And he's like, yeah. And then he kind of looked at me and he smiled. Like, well, how young is young Trav? I was like, so that's a question for him, man. I don't know. He's like, yeah, I probably would have gotten in there. But it was just everybody else, you watch a play from up top, right? There was a 3rd and 6 they had a big conversion on when they were up 13-12. It was like the very start of that long drive they had.
Yeah.
It's 3rd and 6. If you watch that play, like go back and watch all 22. Every other Chiefs receiver comes firing off the ball. Travis Kelce like jogs off the line and then puts on a move on the linebacker that is akin to like what you'd see like a 48-year-old guy with a torn Achilles do at the Y in a basketball game.
Right.
Like just kind of like almost like staggeringly shakes at the guy and then just completely blows by him for 12 yards. Like, how is he open?
Yeah.
Like he looks like from up top, he looks like if I went out there and tried to get open.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is I would never get open. And it's just like everyone in the world knows it's going to him. And it's like, that's fine. He just shakes a bracket, catches it, kind of clumsily runs over a guy. And like, okay, 12 yards, first down. And then later in the drive, catches a touchdown, just stares at Al-Shair throughout the play. And yeah, game's over.
People were complaining about that online, too. They're like, this is any other player. This is taunting. Like, he didn't taunt shit.
Well, let's be real, too. I know I saw his New Heights podcast. He was like, oh, I wasn't taunting. I'm like, look, man, you knew who was on the ground. Yeah. Let's be real here. Okay, guys have a reputation in the league. That Christian Harris, he's probably not staring down at Christian Harris. He took one look at the number and was like, oh, okay. There it is, man. Good night. Yeah, so it is what it is. But now they got the Bills who, present a different challenge. In some ways, much harder. I think overall much harder. In some ways easier because they're not as good defensively. But, man, if you're the Chiefs, like you got to be. This is awesome. This is the one team all year that got you, and now you're like, we get to get you back, and we get to crush your dreams.
Yeah,
and I guarantee you, somebody if they win that game is going to make some comment about being the former Super Bowl champions, and then they get to go play Philly or Washington. Who, look, I don't want to be that guy. I feel like this game on Sunday night's a Super Bowl.
100%.
Like, if they win this game, I'm sorry. Nick Sirianni is not standing in the way of the team winning a 3rd straight Super Bowl. It's not happening. Spags might put himself down in the box to stop Barkley.
We cannot let Nick Sirianni win a Super Bowl. I think that would actually be maybe the world's greatest crimes, like Nick Sirianni win a Super Bowl.
He stops history from happening. Right. Yeah, are you kidding me? Jalen Hurts those for like $120 on 48 attempts. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we do need to sneak a break in here. I do kind of want to talk a little bit about Bills Ravens though, because I do think that game was really interesting, like kind of how we got to this point here. And there's some pretty interesting narratives coming from that, but we don't necessarily have to dive into the whole Lamar discourse. You guys don't care about that here, but I do think there's some very interesting things to take from that Bills Ravens game into this matchup here as we look at kind of how the injury report has happened here. Look, Taylor Rapp didn't practice with a hip injury on Wednesday. This is Wednesday's injury report. Matt Milano was limited now as well. Deion Dawkins, who had plenty of time to go on Jim Rome, but not enough time to practice this week with an illness. Who am I missing?
So you have
Christian Benford.
Dawkins was ill. Benford's limited with the concussions in the protocol.
That's right.
Yeah, and then Milano limited with the hamstring / biceps. And then, by the way, that is the one to me to watch in the. Like, I'm sure he's going to suit up and play unless like just something happens in practice. But look, man, if you get a hamstring on like 20-degree weather, that bad boy is one weird tweak away from that's it. Like, it's not one of those things. It's not like an ankle you could tape it. Like, it is what it is. It's kind of like you're worried about Chris Jones with his calf. Like, if something happens, it happens. Like, you can't shoot it up. Like, it just kind of, so Milano's the big one to me with the Bills, man. If he is gimping around, that defense already isn't good. Now it's got a real big problem.
So here's the thing about this Bills-Ravens matchup quickly that I kind of took away when I was watching that game. I tweeted about this a little bit too on Twitter. Watching that game, I was thinking when that game was done, okay, look, if Buffalo Bills play like that, I feel pretty darn good about the Chiefs' chances to win. I think if they played the way that they played against the Baltimore Ravens, I think the Kansas City Chiefs play a solid game. I feel pretty darn good about the Chiefs' chances. Now, the Bills did get some extra chances from the Ravens because of Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews and a lot of things, a lot of variables there. They got extra chances. The Bills did.
Yeah.
And didn't necessarily put the Ravens away when they could have. But like you go back and you look, they had no drops, they had no turnovers, they had I think one penalty, and like you're looking at that a pretty squeaky clean game.
Right.
I don't know if you felt the same way that I did, but I felt pretty good leaving that game that the Chiefs had a pretty strong chance against that Buffalo team if they did put forward that same effort.
I think this game, look, this is something you say about every football game, but I think in this game is of paramount importance. They cannot turn the ball over in this game.
Right.
Like that is the Chiefs. So here's something that's amazing. Okay. A couple things. The Chiefs have not had a turnover since they played Buffalo. They've not turned the ball over. The Bills have 8 turnovers all season, including the playoffs. They are plus 24 in the turnover margin. Nobody else is better than plus 16. Okay. Like, they lead the league in field position as an average, at the start of your drive. Like, they lead the league. Well, why? Because they get a ton of turnovers. Kansas City cannot turn the ball over in this game. Cannot. If you told me right now the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, they win.
Yeah.
They'll win. Because I think while the Bills are better offensively, the Chiefs are wildly better defensively. The game's in Arrowhead. The Chiefs are also much better special teams. I don't know how many people are aware of this. The Bills are a disaster.
They're bad. So bad.
Like I am always the guy who's screaming at Remigio to just kneel on it when he's 5 yards deep. I got to tell you, if I was Tobe this week, I'd be look, man, 2 hands on the ball, but like run it out because you might pop one in this game. They are atrocious covering kicks. Atrocious. I also think there's an opportunity in this game. If you're in the right field position to fake a punt in this, like the Bills, they have been called off guard. They've had punts blocked on them this year. They are not good on special teams. So, look, the Chiefs have advantages in this game. Yeah. But Matt Williamson put out a thing on Twitter I thought was shocking, honestly. I couldn't believe this. The Chiefs, in their last 37 games, when they've won the turnover battle, they're 37-0.
Wow.
If they win the turnover battle in this game, they're winning. And if they're even, I think they're probably going to win. But Buffalo's feasted all year. To be fair to Buffalo, they were always a team like that. Allen will throw some pick, and you'll be able to kind of take advantage. They've not been that team this year.
Yeah.
The Chiefs actually forced one of the 8 turnovers. He threw a pick against them.
Yeah.
But in this game, if you're Mahomes, if you're the receivers or running back, you got to take care of that football.
Yep.
And if they can do it, I think they got a really good shot. I think they're look, I genuinely think they're the better team in the game. I don't think they're wildly better, but I think they're better. And they're at home. And if they don't make mistakes and they make Buffalo go 80 yards, 75 yards, they're going to do it sometimes. I also think the Chiefs have ways to beat them. I went back and watched the All-22. I spent 2 hours doing it the other day. I got a lot of thoughts. There are certain things that you watch in that game with. That's really interesting. That's clearly something that they were thinking about if they see this team again.
Yeah. Let's take a break and we'll dive into that. I got some questions too that I want to ask you that we can kind of chew on here as we kind of go on into this conversation about this AFC Championship game against the Buffalo Bills. Look, always had to be the Bills. It would always had to be the Bills, and they are coming to Arrowhead Stadium. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Matt, I saw you tweeting about your live watching experience of the All-22 for this Bills and Network. Some really interesting stuff that you found and you tweeted out on your Twitter account. I guess just go through what you saw and what your biggest takeaway was from the rewatch.
My biggest takeaway is that Jalen Watson in this game, I think, might be the MVP of the game if they win, and not because he's going to have 9 tackles and 2 picks, and when they played in Week 11, Watson, of course, was not there.
Yeah.
And so they had Shamari Connor playing pretty much every snap and Najee Johnson playing a vast majority. It's Joshua Williams. I'd have to look. I don't think Joshua Williams played a snap. If he did, it was very few. If he did, it was a minimal amount. Najee Johnson, Shamari Connor. I bet if you find the snap counts for that game, I bet they were at almost 100%. Connor even might have literally been at 100%. And so, of course, McDuffie played. And, it's so long ago, you forget the nuances of the game, and you try to, you're like, okay, let me go back and look. And I'm like, okay, let's see how McDuffie did against Khalil Shakir, because Shakir is by a mile their best receiver, 100%. Would you like to take a guess at how many snaps Trent McDuffie lined up on Khalil Shakir for in man or in zone coverage?
Well, I don't think it's very fair for me to say just because I saw your tweet and I retweeted it. So
the answer is 0.
There you go.
He never lined up. I've seen people tweet out like, "Oh, Shakir was 1 of 3 on targets against McDuffie," and I'm like, "Really? What game did you watch?" Because I watched the entire game, and he was never on Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie was almost exclusively on the other side of the field.
Interesting.
Like, so early in the game, Najee Johnson, and one, to be fair to him, was not on him. It was a great throw and catch. He gave up 2 big passes to Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs then were like, great. Trent McDuffie's taking Amari Cooper out of the game. And Amari Cooper then summarily did absolutely nothing the entire rest of the game. Was just blanketed. Shamari Connor in that game really struggled to tackle. Actually did a halfway decent job covering Shakir. Was not terrible in that game. Certainly wasn't great. And I don't know that I would advise putting him on Shakir in this game. But was more of a tackling liability. Najee Johnson was just a liability. Like, blowing zone coverages left and right. Again, one of the throws, to be fair to him with Cooper, was he had great coverage. It was a perfect throw and catch. But, like, Najee Johnson was taken advantage of. Allen had, on almost every play in that game, Najee Johnson or Shamari Connor to just throw at him. And I suspect with Watson back in the lineup that they are going to put McDuffie on Shakir and that they are going to put Watson on either Cooper or Coleman, whoever's on the field. Because if you can do that, yes, it does make you probably play Najee Johnson in this game or Joshua Williams outside. It does. But he's going against, like, Mac Hollins. Fine. You know what I mean? Like, fine. Whatever. And if they got to put Williams in there, fine. I don't know that you care. Now, you could argue, hey, look, maybe you just play McDuffie and Watson outside and you don't care. Here's the one fascinating part of this, though, that I don't think people are considering they should. So I watched that game, and the Bills played a lot of Reggie Gilliam as their fullback, and they also played a lot of 2 tight end sets. And that was without Dalton Kincaid in the game because he was inactive that day.
That's right. Yeah.
My guess is you will see less of Gilliam and more of Knox, and you'll go 2 tights that way, and they'll go big that way. And they love to have 6 offensive linemen in there. That Alec Anderson, he plays a lot. When they did that, with one exception where the Chiefs stayed nickel, the Chiefs always went to base defense.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? When the Chiefs went to base defense, it was McDuffie and Najee Johnson, and there was always a guy to pick on. Well, if Chiefs go to base defense in this game, it's going to be Watson and McDuffie.
Yeah.
That is a huge difference in this game. A huge. You don't have, with all due respect to Najee Johnson, I mean, any disrespect to the man, he's trying the best he can. You don't have the quote-unquote pigeon. You're just like, we're just going to throw at him. Like, if all else fails, we're going to go with that guy.
Right.
You don't have that in this game. I wonder if that makes them more hesitant to throw out a big personnel in this game because they're like, well, we can't now. You could argue if they're going to go big personnel, maybe throw to the tight ends. But then that brings in another guy who I think is a huge factor in this game who was not a factor at all in the first game. That's Jaden Hicks. Do they put Jaden Hicks in there and say, look, man, you're basically a nickel backer or a dime backer, but if they throw at a heavy, you're going to cover Kincaid. I just think the Chiefs with, Hicks wasn't hurt for that game, but he barely played. Amenahu was hurt. But Watson was hurt. It's a different team. Like, it's it's 3 guys. That's a third of your defense.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I wonder in this game if the Bills go heavy. If I'm the Chiefs, I'd match it with base and say, look, you're not going to run because the Bills ran for nothing in that game. They were terrible at football. You're not going to run, and we're going to put McDuffie and Watson on the field. and you have nowhere to go with this ball that's easy. You're going to have to throw the ball into some tight coverages. If you have McDuffie on Shakir, look, I respect Shakir. That's a win for the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a win. And if you have Watson on Amari Cooper, the way Cooper's played for Buffalo, it's a win for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
You're fine with that. I think it's a very interesting game from that regard. If you watch that game, the Chiefs did nothing. I think they had 3 exotic blitzes the whole game. And by the way, when they did that, Allen was 0 for 3. Like, they just didn't do. They spied once in a blue moon, but not a lot. They were very vanilla in the way they played that game. They at one point had their hilarious Drew Tranquil as a deep safety.
Yeah, that's right.
They played him as the first third down,
that.
3rd and 9. Drew Tranquil was a deep cover 2 safety.
Yeah.
But the downside was, I will say, the Chiefs did not get pressure in that game. Allen had all day to throw the ball.
Yeah.
How much does Amena who changed that? I don't know. Jones was winning. The problem was nobody else was. And so they were able to just kind of move away from him. And they need Menahu and Karl Loftus and Dana and all those to win in this game. They need them to. They don't need to be overwhelming, but they need to at least be effective. And they were not effective in that game.
Right. Looking at the snap counts from this game.
Yeah, hit me.
Trent McDuffie played every snap for the defense side of the ball. Not a shock. Brian Cook, also the other guy that got 100% of the snaps.
Justin Reed had to be way up there.
Let's see. Where is Justin Reed at? Did Justin Reed not play this game? Anyway, there was another player that had 100% of the snap, not Justin Reed. It was 13 that had 100% of the snaps.
Najee Johnson?
Yes.
There you go.
Josh Williams, 0. Did not play.
I saw him once.
Did not play.
What was Connor at? Like 80 something?
Connor was 73% of the snaps.
73%. Okay. Yeah.
But
So on 73% of the snaps, they had Najee Johnson and Shamari Connor on the field simultaneously.
Okay. Justin Reed also played 100%. I missed that one as well.
I was going to say
that was on. Why did they do it this way? Sorry. He was on the offensive. This is per Pro Football Reference, by the way. So snap counts vary place to place. Like if you look at PFF, they could be different than Pro Football Reference. Pro Football Reference, 73 for 100% for both Najee Johnson and Trent McDuffie. Looking at like how they distributed this last time, kind of going to this last game, it looks like, Justin Reed played 97% of the snaps. Trent McDuffie, 93% of the snaps. He had like his little shoulder thing, which I thought that he was cooked, and that was a scary little minute and a half that happened there. But then you had Shamari Connor playing 50 snaps, 74% of it. Jalen Watson played 40 snaps, 59%. I'm curious if his percentage goes up. Now this is his first game back.
I bet it's kind of.
I hope it does.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Here's the thing.
What was Najee Johnson's percentage in this game?
Ooh. Let me. Swayze Bozeman got. Oh no, that's special teams. I was about to get stoked for Swayze Bozeman. 50%. Najee Johnson, 34 snaps for him.
The number's got to go down.
That number has to go down.
The number's got to go down.
Where's 27 at?
I hate to be that guy, but it's got to go down.
Najee had that. Where's Chamari at? Oh, Chamari's way too high. 50. He had the same amount of snaps as Jaden Hicks. That's got to change.
Yeah, I would imagine in this game, the Chiefs are going to play a little bit bigger personnel. Just put Mike Pennell on Shakir to start the game. Just go press.
Set the tone early.
We're gonna press you with Mike Pennell at the line. Good luck to you. It's like going around the Rocky Mountains. Here you go. By the time you get into your route, the play's over.
Incredible.
I would guess in this game, Chenal's going to play a lot. Tranquil's going to play a lot, even more than normal. Because my guess in this thing, I bet you the Chiefs go into this game and say, look, we are not going to let them run the ball. And we are willing to do everything we possibly can to make Allen just throw underneath.
Yeah.
And look, man, you want to throw for 5.5 yards a clip? Cool. I think if you're the Chiefs, one thing that is kind of a big lie about this game, you see the names on the Bills, and you're like, man, they've got Cooper, and Coleman was like almost a first-round pick. Might as well have been, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got Kincaid. Those guys have been awful down the stretch.
Awful.
Kincaid is on 55 yards in any game this season?
Wow. Did not know that.
Not one game. Keon Coleman, since he's come back from injury, has done nothing.
No.
Amari Cooper has done nothing for a month and a half. Like, the only guy who does anything in the passing game for them is Shakir, and then they do throw to the back some. That's something the Chiefs are going to have to be aware of, especially with Ty Johnson, who's a nice third down back. But the Bills want to, if the Bills can't run the ball in this game, see, to me, they got away with it in week 11 because, again, they could throw at 2 of the 3 corners anytime they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
That is not going to be the case on Sunday.
Right.
That's not going to happen. That is where I look at this game and I go, I wonder how this shakes. Because it was, hey, if you remember in that Bills game, I have the numbers right in front of me, man, take my word for it. There were a lot of 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 11s, there were a million 3rd and longs in that game. And the Chiefs going to get off the field because they just throw at Johnson and Connor the whole game.
Yeah.
Well, now it's Jalen Watson. Now it's Jaden Hicks. Now it's Trent McDuffie. I guarantee you, if the Chiefs stuff the run and it's 3rd and 10 all game long, it's not going to be quite as easy to convert a bunch of third downs. Like, it's going to be different. I think Watson coming back for this game is more impactful than any other player returning on either side of the ball for either team.
Mm. I think I agree with you. Because this game did look a whole lot different earlier this year than it will now. Going back to your 3rd down conversion points that I had on like some of the players that didn't play for Kansas City and Buffalo the first time around, 9 of 15 on 3rd down conversions for Buffalo in that game. 1 of 2 on 3rd down or 4th downs, excuse me, and the 1 obviously being the touchdown. Here's something that these conspiracy theorists should look at. The Buffalo Bills only had 3 penalties against them, but she's had 6.
Fix wasn't in that game.
Yeah, that was the fix was actually for Buffalo that game to throw them off the fixed scent. Is how that one works. Some players in this game for both sides that didn't play. Obviously, you mentioned Jalen Watson, Minihue, Harrison Butker also didn't play for the Chiefs in the last game against the Buffalo Bills. Hollywood Brown, Isaiah Pacheco was out. He had his little broken leg, ankles deal. The Bills, they didn't have Matt Milano. Spencer Brown, Dalton Kincaid didn't play in it. Keon Coleman, Dwayne Smoot didn't play either. So like there's going to be, it's going to look different. It's going to look like it should have the first time around, truthfully. But these teams are obviously getting healthier with Matt Milano, obviously, as we mentioned already with the injury report. I think that's good. But on the offensive side of the ball, Matt, I think there's some questions that still need to be answered, and maybe unfairly, right? Because we know what Patrick Mahomes is in the playoffs. He's literally unconscious, and he does not lose in the playoffs. And there's no reason you should doubt Patrick Mahomes. But this offense only had 1 wide receiver catch a ball. I think that can be somewhat concerning. I don't know if that was game plan specific or if they were kind of schemed into that. I don't know how it went from the Texans' point of view, but how do you feel about the Chiefs' offense heading into this one?
Yeah, look, if the Chiefs complete a pass to 1 wide receiver in this game, it's probably not great.
Right.
Although nothing would be more hilarious if they did that, and then we're like, we scored 38 points.
It's Xavier Worthy, and he scores every single touchdown that they have after they let them get Xavier Worthy.
Xavier Worthy lights the Bills up in this game. You will never hear the end of it.
I have the tweet bookmarked. I bookmarked the tweet on draft night. I'm like, oh, I'm using the trade tweet. I've already bookmarked it. I'm sure I have something in the draft.
I will. Forget the Chiefs fan of me, right? Like, I know I work for Sports Illustrated. I'm supposed to be like ultra non-biased, but like, let's be real. Sports Illustrated knows who they hired. Okay. Like when I write and when I report, I'm non-biased. So I'm sitting here talking with you like I'm a Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
There would be nothing more hilarious than if Xavier Worthy goes for like 7 and like $150 and 2 touchdowns in this game, right? And like Keon Coleman has 1 target for like -8 yards. I got nothing against Keon Coleman, but just for the content of it all, there would be nothing funnier.
Great storyline.
Look, I think the Chiefs have to get Hollywood Brown involved in this game. Hopkins, I don't know that I'm like, oh my God, he's got to see a bunch of targets, but like that guy's a vet and he's smart. I'll say one thing about Hopkins in this game that I think is interesting. The Bills play a ton of zone coverage. That's how they play. By the way, one other note, we were talking about the other side of the ball. The Bills in that game against the Chiefs, they played nickel defense every single snap except for one. One time they were in dime. And I'm talking like there were goal line snaps when the Chiefs had 3 tight ends on the field. They stayed nickel. They were not going to come out of it. But see, that's why I think in one way, if the Chiefs can block in this game, there is a world where Mahomes just absolutely lights them up because he knows what they're going to do. They're going to be in zone. They're not going to blitz very much. They're going to play nickel. And man, if he knows what you're doing and he's got time, good luck to you. No, I think they, but that's where like Hopkins against his own, he's so smart. He'll find those gaps. He'll sit down. Like he'll have that same wavelength as Mahomes does. Mm-hmm. But I will say in this game, Brown and Worthy, because of their speed, if you look at the Bills defense, they are very fast in their front seven. They are small, but they're fast.
Yeah.
They are very slow in their secondary. Mm-hmm. And if I am the Chiefs in this game, hey, man, you want to give me a cover 1 look, cover 3 look? Fine. I'm running downfield, and if I'm Mahomes, I'm taking that shot. If it's one-on-one, that ball's in the air. It's gone. It's out of my hand because I feel like my guy's going to run your guy to the ball. DeMar Hamlin, God bless him. He's not a great starting safety. Great. Taylor Rapp may not play in this game. He's not even he's a hitter, but he's not a great safety. If he does not play, it is a second-round rookie in Cole Bishop, okay, who, again, like, not a guy for the Chiefs, you're like, we can't throw at him.
Mm-hmm.
I think in this game, like, I get it. The Chiefs have not been good hitting the deep ball. I think you try. I think you try in this game early on to do it because, A, if you hit it, it's enormous. It changes the whole game. B, even if you don't, if you start stretching them vertically, now all of a sudden guys like Hopkins, guys like Kelsey, they're going to be open. They're going to get behind the backers. And that's where you can really start to exploit the Bills, who are not good defensively. They have not been good for months. They have been terrible on third down. They're the worst third and long defense in the NFL. They're 29th overall on third down. But yeah, the Chiefs have got to get these receivers involved. They've got, and no offense to Juju, can we stop playing him like 40-some-odd% of the snaps, please? I didn't even know he was on the field in real time. I saw that game when he played 40 snaps.
He's hit the Justin Watson, role. You're just out there all the time, but nobody knows. Yeah.
Like, what justification is there for that? That's bonkers.
I do think that I think the Chiefs have to run the ball, and I think that we've seen their efficiency in the recent weeks. Obviously, you mentioned the deep ball, I think that'll be important too. But I do think that the running efficiency has to increase. We saw in the first 14 weeks of the season they were the most efficient running team in the whole National Football League. Since week 14, they've been one of the worst. And I don't know if that's father time catching up with Kareem Hunt or with adding Isaiah Pacheco into the mix makes them less efficient. Look, Isaiah Pacheco hasn't been the best since he came back from injury. I mean, I know that a lot of Chiefs fans love him, but there might be a conversation coming up about Isaiah Pacheco in the future when it comes down to it.
Not to interrupt you. I don't know how you feel.
Good.
They got to ride Kareem Hunt in this game.
Yeah,
I got nothing against Isaiah Pacheco. Man, guy gives you everything he's got every snap. He has not been right since he's come back.
Correct.
And one thing I will say about Kareem Hunt, he is the kind of guy that by about carry 20, if you're a linebacker, you're like, oh my God,
slow burn.
He's like the Travis Kelce of running backs. You look at him and you're like, how is this guy getting yardage?
Great comp.
He runs like he's just wet cement. How is he getting? But that 4th and 1 play, right? One of the biggest plays of that Texans game. Gets the handoff. I think it was Will Anderson. I'm pretty sure. Hits him behind the line of scrimmage. Man, that's a huge stop for Houston. This is the Chiefs have 1 point. It was the first play of the 4th quarter.
Yeah, that's right.
And Kareem Hunt didn't truck him, didn't juke him. Kareem Hunt just rolled off of him and then just gained 2. And it was that's the perfect encapsulation of Kareem Hunt. It was actually funny at the game. He went to the podium and Matt Derrick, a great guy, it asks him, is there anything better as a running back than at the end of that game when you're salting away a win, you're getting the ball? And he was he looked at Matt and he's like, is there anything better? He's like, man, it kind of sucks because I know I'm just going to get hit. And he just kind of laughed, and everybody started laughing. But he's incredible at that. How many times this year has he gotten hit and then gained like 4 or 5 more yards because he's just dragging some guy and he won't go down. I just think in a game like this, again, a smaller front, let him just be a battering ram, man. Let him. And by the way, again, the Bills never got out of nickel. They're not coming out of nickel. If I were the Chiefs in this game, I would play 2 tight ends and I would just slam the ball at this team. But you know what? Here it comes. I think Baltimore would have done that and won the game if not for the fact they were trailing the whole game. They turned the ball over like crazy.
Yeah.
Baltimore ran for 100. What was it? 100. And I have the box score right up here now in front of me. The Ravens ran for 176 yards in that game and couldn't even really run the way they wanted to because they were trailing the whole game. If I'm Kansas City, I know he's not Derrick Henry. I get it. I'd be like, look, man, you're getting the ball, and we are going to plow forward. And it doesn't have to be more than 4 yards a carry. Like, 2nd and 6 is a win. That's fine. That gives you 2 shots to easily convert. So, no, I'm giving the ball to Kareem on all day in this game. And I'm just going big personnel and pounding forward against that Bills smaller front.
They're probably the last storyline on the offensive side of the ball is the offensive line. Look, Joe Tooney didn't play phenomenal. Went up against a pretty darn good front, though. Like, I think that's a pretty darn good defensive line that he went up against. I don't know how I don't think that they're going to change. I mean, I think if they're going to change, they're going to do it already. They're going to ride this until the wheels fall off. I think Mike Caliendo looked a little bit better. But it's something for me that I'm a little apprehensive about, man. I don't know if my anxiety will be eased about it because of their scars of Super Bowl. What was that? 53?
55.
No, 55. There we go. Wrong Roman numeral. I do think that, like, I would love to see the game plan of, like, what happened to the Steelers game plan, right? Like, what happened to the first Texans game plan where you're protecting and you're running the RPOs, you're running the quick stuff, like you're protecting that left tackle. I kind of let him get out there, and he was giving up a little bit of ground there too on that outside edge. But I'm curious to see kind of how Joe Tooney responds in this regard, and maybe running the ball does help them right in this where they can kind of pin their ears back, get back and get going. I think that would help a whole lot. But thoughts on the offensive line going into this one?
This is going to be a weird thing to say, but I'm a weird person, so we're going to go with it. I'll tell you right now, the guy that would scare me the most in this game, it's Von Miller.
Yeah.
I know he is not the same player. I get it 1,000%. He played 17 snaps against Baltimore. Like, they didn't play him that much. But, man, he is the kind of guy in the fourth quarter, if it's tight, that guy, like, to me, you circle him and underline him. Like, that, you have to be accountable because you'll strip sack Mahomes. You will.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I think that also speaks to the fact that I'm not that scared of this Bills front. Like, so Greg Rousseau is their best player on balance up front. And he's a good player. He had 8 sacks this year, 3 forced fumbles. Like, Greg Rousseau is a good, solid player. He also opened the year against Arizona with 3 sacks, and after that had 5 the entire rest of the season. Like, he never had a game with multiple sacks after that. Against Kansas City, he had 2 quarterback hits. For those wondering, he did not have any sacks. In the playoffs, though, however, he has had a sack in each game. So he's been on a little bit of a heater. Now, the ironic thing is he also only had 2 quarterback hits, so he's really making them count. But he's their best pass rusher. Yeah, AJ Epinesa, he's fine. He's not a bad player. He had 6 sacks. I kind of liken him to, like, Mike Dana. Like, he's a solid rotational guy. Not a bad player by any means, but also not a guy that you're, like, really shaking your boots over. He has not done really much in this playoff so far. But to me, the Chiefs, like, look, Caliendo's held up. I'm not saying he's been perfect, but how many times do you watch Mike Caliendo in these games and go, oh, he's killing them? Like, he hasn't, right? Like, he's kind of like the Nick Allegretti of 2024. They just need him to be solid. I think if the Bills are going to win, Ed Oliver's got to show up because I got to tell you, Ed Oliver's kind of been persona non grata in these games against the Chiefs over the years. Now, part of that is the law firm of Humphrey and Smith inside, where they have just destroyed Ed Oliver. But there's no Tooney now inside. We assume the same lineup here. So how much does that change things? Well, we're going to find out. Buffalo was able to affect Mahomes in that Week 11 game, but a lot of it, watching on tape, a lot of it was Wanya Morris. Yeah. And I'm not pinning on Wanya. He was hurt. Like, his knee got hurt. He clearly wasn't right. Did you remember he got hurt the week prior against Denver? He was not right in that game. He couldn't move. The Chiefs largely held up otherwise. So you wonder in this game, like, if Mahomes has time, that might spell death for Buffalo. I just don't know they can cover. And I think for the Chiefs, the big task in this game is, like, you got to hold up. You got to hold up for 2.5 to 3 seconds. But this is not Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. This is not that. With all due respect to Buffalo, like, this is not that. So I think the line should, in theory, be good. I do.
Good. Well, we'll see on Sunday night when the Kansas City Chiefs host the Buffalo Bills for their 7th straight AFC title game. That is wild.
Not nothing.
Yeah, that's insane. There's a lot. I think that sometimes it's hard to lose, or it's easy to lose perspective on what's going on when it's happening in the moment. But there's sometimes where I look at these playoff records that Patrick Mahomes is setting, Matt, and I'm like, oh, he's already tied for second all time in playoff wins, and almost has as many home AFC championship games as Tom Brady has had in his career, and he's not 30 yet.
What they're doing is, look, I love the NFL's history. I'm a freak about it, to the point that I might be considered by many a loser. That's fair. That's fair. I might even consider myself in that realm. This team, historically speaking, is one of the 5 greatest teams in NFL history. And that's not like a Chiefs thing. That's like that Verderame Sports Illustrated thing. Like, they are one of the 5 greatest teams as they currently sit in NFL history. Okay.
Yeah.
Because with all due respect to any team that played before the merger, let's include the Lombardi Packers. Any team that played before the Super Bowl era, there was no AFL, so you had very, very limited amount of teams. And there was obviously no cap back then. The salary cap and free agency did not kick in until 1993.
Right.
So, wildly different league. Okay. The Packers are certainly one of those great teams. They actually did win 3 in a row, but one of them was before Super Bowl I. They won in 65, then they won the first 2 Super Bowls. They won 7 titles over the course of, they won 5 titles over the course of 7 years. They're one of the greats. The Steelers won 4 and 6. They went back-to-back twice in the 70s. The 49ers won 4 in the 80s, but the Chiefs were better than the Niners in terms of what they've done. The Niners did that over an entire 10-year span.
Yeah.
Kansas City's packed that into 5 years?
Yeah.
So the Chiefs are a better dynasty than the Niners. The Cowboys won 3 and 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs have had more staying power than the Cowboys. They're a better dynasty. The Patriots, it depends on how you look at them. Is it 1 dynasty or 2? Because if it's 2, the Chiefs are better than both of those dynasties. If it's 1, okay, then the Pats are, I think, always going to probably be the best dynasty we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I would argue, and not because it's conducive to the argument here, I think it's 2.
I do too.
Like, there's a 10-year gap. They won anything, and the players are totally different other than Brady. That maybe in some ways that's even more impressive. Like, they had 2 separate dynasties with the coach and the quarterback. Like, wild. But man, this team is 9 straight AFC West titles, 7 straight AFC Championship game appearances, hosting 6 of them. They have gone to 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls, won 3 of them, including a back-to-back. Mm-hmm. They're 1 win away from becoming the first team ever to go to 5 Super Bowls in 6 seasons. If they then win the Super Bowl, that is 4 in 6 seasons. The only team that's ever done that is the Pittsburgh Steelers from 1974 to 1979. And if Kansas City does it, obviously they will three-peat, which everybody knows no one has ever done. If they win 2 more games this year, they're the greatest NFL team ever. So, something to consider when you're sitting down watching Sunday night.
Take it all in. These are the good old days. Link in the description to buy a shirt to let you know that these are the good old days for the Kansas City Chiefs. We will be live during the game in Dallas, Texas, as we are watching the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. We'll have our live post-game show right after the fact. We'll be rolling at KC Sports Network. You guys already know. We'll have all you covered with all kinds of content leading right up to this game and during the game and after the game and after the fact too, because we're going to go get a bunch of draft content as well. Matt, anything else you want to get off your chest before we get out of here?
No, I will not be on the post game coverage. I'll be catatonic during the game. And then the next time we do this show, I'll be down in Mobile. I'll be covering the Senior Bowl. So all bases covered here. I'll be down there for Sports Illustrated, but of course, I'll be on the show for KCSN. So all bases are covered. And then 5 days later, I'm going to Super Bowl. So I'll be down in New Orleans from Wednesday to Monday, something like that. I'll be enough po' boy and Cajun shrimp to pretty much empty the ocean. They're gonna have to probably like helicopter me out of the city, but that's the risk. That they let me in. That's their problem.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. A Super Bowl edition of this podcast would be insane if we were both in New Orleans and the Chiefs make it. That would be insane.
We'll have to do like a KCSN each segment.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, like we'll just go down to like whatever what is it, like Bourbon Street. We'll just go down there.
Beignet.
You and I will just set up a camera.
Yep.
We'll just post up, go down there at like 2:00 in the afternoon and be all right. No, until one of us passes out, we don't stop. I just get crawfish boils just one after the next. I'll just listen. We'll put it on Kissel's tab. It's all right.
There you go. I'm sure that can be written off too. That's tax right off.
He'll be all right. It'd be good for content.
Great for the content. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of That Football Show. Make sure to like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us all the way to the end of this podcast. I had a take. I'm cooking. I'm baking. I'm not sure if I'm ready to put it on the podcast yet. I don't know if it'll be right. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be relevant next week. Maybe it will, and I can take it out the oven then. But I think it's still cooking. It's not ready to come out yet. I'll tell you off air. That's going to do it for That Football Show. We will talk to you guys after Chiefs win. See you then.